Davos, right? I kept seeing Davos pop up. What the hell is Davos? Davos is a city in, I believe in Switzerland, right? You know how we go to like Comic-Con and different types of conventions like this? Well, this is like a special meeting place for the ultra rich. You got to get an invitation to get there. Not just anybody can come. But what's interesting about Davos is nearly everybody has the same kind of economic thoughts. It's more of like a
good afternoon,
elite
thank you very much,
and it's definitely, some would say, it feels more of like a left-leaning, progressive type of culture.
Yeah,
in that environment, right?
Yeah.
And there were some
leaning is like generous. I think it's
so. What was interesting is they just happened to have a special guest speaker there, and that would be Argentina's President Javier Milei, who, if you've been paying attention to the news, was a guy who became a populist figure, won his election in Argentina, and came in and completely started slashing things. Right, Brian?
Yep, he did.
Slashed away. He slashed away. He started firing people, and immediately, and the reason why is because Argentina's had this, they've spent over, and he talks about it in this discussion, he talks about how over the last 100 years, it's continued to decline because they've embraced collectivism and socialism. And he's come in as this, basically he's an economist, right?
Yeah, can I show some clips of him real quick? So
yeah, show clips so people know what we're talking about. Because the thing we're teasing here is that he basically punches all these people at Davos in the stomach.
Yeah, and so this is the president they elected.
Yo no me metí acá para estar guiando corderos. Yo me metí acá para despertar leones. Quiero escucharlos rugir.
That's one of his rallies, and This is when he started cutting stuff. This is actually really, really funny.
¡A mierda! Tipo y deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Ministerio.
I love when he goes, afuera.
So this guy came in, he was elected, he's very passionate, but the world media, the left media, immediately began touting this guy as, oh, it's Argentina's Trump, right? Because as you know, and putting out Trump's name is an insult, right? If you're a politician.
Right.
So they thought, and to some degree, because Trump is a populist, I would say this guy's a populist. But let me tell you something. Shouldn't every government official, anybody running for office, be a populist? Shouldn't you be running for the majority of the people you represent?
Yes.
Like, that's the whole point of populism.
Yeah. Oh, he's a populist. How is that a bad thing? Isn't it a good thing if people, if the person you're electing is popular with their electors?
Well, why do you think they call it populist? Because a lot of people like them, right? A lot of regular people, but not people that are part of the establishment.
Right.
They're anti-establishment. Well, guess what? What he's saying in the speech is that establishment is bad.
Right.
And he goes through, and what's interesting about this guy is they're calling him Trump, but the difference between this guy and Trump is that when this guy delivers a speech, he actually is extraordinarily intelligent. He is an economist, and he comes backing it up with facts. So, kind of like how a lot of people are put off by Trump because he does this thing where he just insults people and he's kind of a jerk.
Right.
Well, this guy doesn't do that. He's more of a level-headed guy. So,
well, he's level-headed in this speech, but in his Hispanic speech, he's like, "Those leftists, assholes, they are shit. They're shit."
That's true. That's actually a good point.
He gets pretty nuts.
He was really, when he first was elected, he was very passionate, and for good reason, because he actually comes here and he starts just dropping truth bombs all over these people.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember, he's coming from Argentina as 150% inflation.
So what he comes out here, and I'll give you the initially the first thing he says. So he says, "I am here to tell you the Western world is facing a significant threat." Okay, it's what he comes out and says first. It's in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the Western world are co-opted by a worldview that inevitably leads to socialism and consequently to poverty and economic deprivation.
Right.
He basically says that the way the world is thinking right now is going to lead everybody to poverty. And he doesn't just come out and say it he actually backs it up with facts. And he talks about the fact that, look, it's happened in recent decades. It was motivated by some well-intentioned, desires from some people, but also some people who kind of like wanted to be part of this privileged caste,
right?
But they couldn't do it because they weren't capital, they couldn't make money, basically.
Right.
So all you can do is affect politics at that point. So he goes through here and he talks about something. I mean, if you want a lesson in like how capitalism works and why it's the best economic, thing that we've ever found for our world, from year 0 to 1800. So from like, I guess when Christ to 1800 and
right. Yeah, year 0, guys.
He's like year 0. I went, what the fuck?
An incredible long time ago before technology worked, caveman style. That's what he meant.
He said from year 0 to 1800, GDP, which is like the global, basically how much money the globe has, basically,
right?
GDP, was stagnant without any change. So from 0 to 1800, it essentially didn't move anywhere. It was about the same. Then when the Industrial Revolution happened and the adoption of capitalism in America, GDP doubled. Okay, the world's, not just America, the world wealth doubled from 1800 to 1900, 100 years. Then it doubled again in 66 years, from 1900 to 1966. Then it doubled again in 33 years, from 1966 to 2000. And then it doubled again in 23 years, from 2000 to 2023.
Jeez.
So what he's telling you is capitalism makes the world. And now what facts did he use to bring it here? He said in 1800, this is an interesting fact. In 1800, before all this started, 95% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty.
Right.
In 2020, just prior to COVID, only 5% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty.
Wow.
5%. That's what capitalism did for the world.
And then after COVID, it was 55%.
well, we had a lot of problems with COVID. Some bad shit happened. You know what I'm saying? So he came in here and he talked about, and it's not just, socialism. And he didn't use the term socialism a lot. He used collectivism, because what he's saying is that he sees the world is actually embracing this collectivism that leads to socialism. And so when you start punishing capitalists or people who capitalism, you end up in a socialist situation.
Right.
And which came to the demise of Argentina. Right.
Right.
So,
and Venezuela,
he's trying to warn everybody.
Right.
What did you think of his speech?
I thought it was eye-opening. Like, I knew a lot of this stuff, but I could never put it in words. The way he broke it down was actually really incredible. I did not know about the world GDP doubling. I never knew that. I always assumed that, we started at the year 0 and slowly over time, we grew. I thought it was a gradual thing that we discovered technology. I know in the last few hundred years, that's been like the major, rush in technology and social programs and, just civilization. But I always assumed that there was some kind of gradual growth. I had no idea that for an incredible amount of time, the world was just stagnant. And then they introduced capitalism, the industrial age kicks off, and it just doubles, and here we are.
Making the whole world richer. I mean, America may have started it, right? And it wasn't a completely new concept to America either. Capitalism was in little pockets, had been done previously.
Right.
But the free market is, and basically talks about things like, look, if you make a superior product at a lower price, then people are going to buy your product. People are going to, no matter what it is, if you make shoes and you make a better shoe at a lower price, they're going to buy your shoe, and when the government comes in, so what happens is because the left, and he's talking about the left being, and the reason why we associate with the left, I'm sure there are some people on the left who like capitalism. I'm certain, but for the most, the left embraces a more socialistic collective idea for economies. And it
doesn't help that that's being taught in like every university, that capitalism is bad, socialism is good, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So because the left couldn't fight against the facts of capitalism, because these are facts, these are not, they can't fight against the facts. So then they said, well, let's fight against the morals of capitalism, saying it's unjust.
Right.
Right. Capitalism is bad because it's individualistic, and collectivism is good because it's altruistic towards others. Right. So they strive for social justice because that's the only battle they have to fight. Otherwise, they just lose to capitalism.
There is a point there to be made. Like, so I'm a capitalist. I think capitalist. I think a hybrid version of capitalism and a little bit of socialism mixed in is what makes a perfect system.
I mean, that's what America is.
Or close to, or a good system, I should say. Yeah. But there is flaws with capitalism when it's not regulated. The reason why regulation is required to a degree is to foster the free market. You can't allow 3 companies to own every single news station, or one company to own all the shipping routes, because that goes from capitalism. That becomes something completely different, because capitalism relies on the free market. And if you completely bypass the free market because there is no regulation, then it's no longer capitalism, and now it's boot on your neckism, whatever that is called. Which, by the way, we're not doing a great job of, because Amazon pretty much owns everything. So
And so let's talk about it in a second. Let's finish up what he has to say here, because I think he says something that everybody's going to really respond to. He says things like free countries are 12 times richer than repressed countries. 12 times.
Wow.
Okay. The world is a freer, richer, and more peaceful place than it has ever been before. Fact. Even though we have wars and things going on, it is still more than it ever has before. Citizens of free countries live 25% longer than citizens of repressed countries.
Interesting.
Okay. He says in his closing monologue here, he says, don't be intimidated by the political caste or the parasites who live off the state. Don't yield to a political class that only wants to prolong its power and preserve its privileges.
Ooh.
If you earn money because you provide a superior product at a better price. The state is not the solution. The state is the problem. And you have an ally in Argentina.
Wow. That's powerful stuff.
Which was pretty powerful speech.
Because of human greed, often socialism turns into communism. And a lot of people try to look at Sweden and go, well, Sweden is socialist and they're doing great. Well, no, they're also a hybrid. They're not pure socialists. Right.
And it's smaller. It's a smaller,
much smaller,
just like Argentina. And that's part of the thing is, like, I really appreciate what he's saying, because ideally he's right. Like on a very basic small system, capitalism it works, but you're always going to have some losers. Like, you're going to have winners and losers. Anytime you have competition, what is competition? People win and people lose. Right. And so the problem is, and the reason why you have this collectivism or this socialism is because they want it so that nobody loses. But the problem is that human beings, the human condition, there have to be winners and losers, because you have greed and you do have empathy, but people are living their own stories. They're living their own lives, and they're ultimately, striving for their own wins. And so you're going to have some people who win, aka Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and you're going to have somebody who loses, Joe Doe from down the street, who just could never make anything work. And you have those people who are going to, hate the people that are making all the money because they didn't. But that's part of the capital. And even though you're going to have some losers, overall, like was said, all the boats are rising.
And for the people that are not born with a great deck, that require support, that's completely fine. And I think that's great. But it can't supersede the free market. Once it does, it goes from you can jump your class. Let's say you're born in extreme poverty, in the dirt. In a capitalist hybrid system, you can jump that class with enough hard work, determination. You can come out of the dirt. You can be better than what your parents, grandparents, et cetera, were. But in a socialist environment or a communist environment with collectivism, like he was saying, you can't.
Well, because the government's creating a system where the bureaucrats are the people in power and everybody else is just getting enough to survive. And this is kind of what he's talking about here, like living off of, what did he call it? He said, don't be intimidated by the political caste or the parasites who live off the state. This is something that's happened with the oligarchy in Russia. You essentially have a dictator in Putin,
Venezuela,
and you have a bunch of oligarchs who so in our country, for example, in America, What the government should do, the government should set the playing field, right? So the idea should be that everybody should have an equal opportunity to succeed.
I agree. And to end this topic, I do want to show a parody of this that I thought was really funny.
And I appreciate the World Economic Forum providing me the opportunity to be on this stage and say, fuck you, Klaus Schwab, and fuck your New World Order. We, the people, were born free, we will stay free, and you and all of your globalist friends, including everyone in this room, can go fuck yourself.
There was another one too, where he's got
the follow-up. I love this. This is like the next day, and he goes...
And so yesterday, I stood on this stage and said some things that I should not have said. But we all deserve a second chance. So I would like to apologize to absolutely no one. None of you were elected to show us how we should live our lives. All of you motherfuckers took your private jets to show up to this meeting, so don't lecture us about the environment. I ain't eating bugs. You can eat these nuts. And once again, you and your fake climate agenda can go fuck.
Hey, if you like this clip and you want to see more, then click right here and become a member today. Also, we do a live show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, totally free. So come on down and hang out with us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you there.